to feel more natural and automatic. Even so, attention is still important because small details can make a big differences in the final results. When using heat tools, it's always better to move slowly and allow the material to respond naturally instead of trying to control everything with force. The fabric reacts to heat in its own way, and learning that response comes from repetition and experience. That's why this process might look quiet and focused. It's a balance between guiding the tools and letting the heat do its job. I also make sure to keep my workspace clear and organized so each movement stays smooth and safe. This kind of environment helps reduce mistakes and keeps the workflow steady. During this live stream, nothing is rushed and nothing is edited out because this is how handmade work truly happens in a real time. If you are watching for a long time, you'll notice the rhythm stays the same, and that's intentional. This life is meant to reflect a calm, steady crafting session where consistency, patience, and care are more important than speed or multitasking. Please feel free to stay as long as you like, or simply let this live run quietly while you focus on your own work. Anyway, when working with different types of fabric, the techniques needs slight adjustments depending on the material. Fabrics like organza are very lightweight and sheer, so they respond quickly to heat and require an even gentler movement with the shoulder. If the tool stays too long in one spot, organza can melt too fast or lose its shape. So slow, controlled motion is especially important. On the other hand, satin is smoother and a bit denser, which means it usually needs a steadier pass to get a clean cut and seal edge. Because satin has a soft shine, controlling heat is also important to avoid dull spots or discoloration along the edges. Each fabric has its own behavior, and part of crafting is learning how to adjust pressure, speed, and angle to match the material. That's why, even though the process looks similar from the outside, the hand movement changes subtly with each fabric type. Over time, these small adjustments become, instinctive, and the work starts to flow naturally. This life shows that real handmade work is not just about tools, but also about understanding materials through repeated practice. So if the pace feels calm and repetitive, that's because the goal is consistency and clean results and not a speed. You're welcome to stay and watch the process, or simply keep this live playing quietly while you relax or work on something else. So, as the work continues, one important part of fabric crafting is paying attention to how the fabric feels while being cut, not just how it looks. Some fabrics soften slightly under heat, while others become firmer at the edges, and recognizing that change helps guide the next movement. With materials like organza, the edge seal very quickly, so lighter pressure and smoother motion help keep the shape clean. Then satin tends to hold its structure a bit more, while allows for a slightly steadier pass, but it still benefits from controlled heat to keep the edges smooth and even. This process may seem quiet and repetitive, but it's built around maintaining a steady rhythm that protects both the materials and the vinyl results. Handmade work often relies on small and repeated action done carefully rather than fast or dramatic movements. During this live stream, I'm focusing on consistency and safety, especially because the heat tools require full attention. That's why there may be long movements without talking or interaction. This live is simply a calm, a real-time view of how fabric pieces are prepared step by step, showing that patience and control are just as important as skill. You're welcome to keep watching or let this live run quietly as a peaceful background while you go about your own activities. Then, after the fabric is cut and sealed, there is usually a quick visual check to make sure the edges are clean and even. This doesn't mean fixing everything immediately, but simply noticing how the fabric responded to the heat and whether the cut followed the intended shape. Small imperfections are normal in handmade work, and most of them come from slight changes in speed or angle during cutting. Over time, recognizing these details helps improve the next pieces without overthinking the process. This is why working slowly is often more effective than trying to finish quickly. With materials like satin and organza, even a small adjustment in a movement can improve the overall finish. During this live stream, I'm keeping the workflow simple and steady, focusing on repeating the same steps with care. The goal is not a perfection, but consistency and clean result across multiple pieces. I usually make hundreds, if not thousands, pieces every single day. This kind of crafting process is best done in a calm environment where focus and patience guide each movement. So if the pace feels relaxed and unhurried, that's intentional and it reflects how handmade fabric work is normally done in real time. You're very welcome to stay, observe, or simply keep this playing softly in the background. As the session goes on, this kind of repetitive work becomes more about maintaining focus than learning new movements. Once the technique is familiar, the main task is to keep the same steady pace and avoid rushing. especially when working with heat tools. Fabric crafting like this is built on small habits such as keeping the tool at a consistent angle, allowing the heat to glide along the fabric edges, and giving the material enough time to respond without forcing it. With fabric like satin and organza, these habits help maintain smooth edges and prevent unnecessary stiffness or marks. During this live stream, I'm intentionally keeping everything simple and unhurried because this is how the best results are usually achieved. There are no shortcuts in this part of the process. It's just a repetition and careful attention. That's why you may notice long stretches of quiet time with only the sound of the tools and the fabric. This life is meant to reflect a calm working atmosphere where the focus stays on the process itself rather than constant interaction. You are very welcome to stay and watch or let the stream play quietly in the background as a relaxed and steady presence. As this work continues, the focus stays on keeping the process comfortable and sustainable for long periods of time. When crafting with heat tools, it's important to work in a way that doesn't strain the hands or rush the movements, especially during longer sessions like this one. Keeping a relaxed posture, steady breathing, and consistent rhythm helps maintain both safety and quality. With fabrics such as organza and satin, patience allows the heat to seal the edges cleanly without unnecessary pressure. Over time, this calm approach reduces mistakes and keeps the workflow smooth. This live stream shows the real pace of handmade fabric preparation where progress happens through repetition rather than speed. There's no rush to reach the end, and it's just a steady continuation of the same careful steps. If you're watching quietly or using this live as a background while doing your own tasks, that's perfectly fine. The atmosphere here is meant to be slow, focused, and relaxed, reflecting how this kind of crafting is usually done in the real working table. As the life goes on, the work naturally settles into a steady flow where each movement feels familiar and intentional. At this stage, the goal is simply to keep the same rhythm and avoid unnecessary changes because consistency is what keeps the result clean and uniform. Working with fabric and heat is less about strength and more about control, allowing the tool to move smoothly while paying attention to how the materials reacts. With with fabrics like organza, the response is quick and delicate, while satin requires slightly slower, more even pass to maintain a smooth edge. This balance becomes easier with repetition, and over time, the hands learn the right pace without much thought. That's that's why this process often looks quiet and calm from the outside. This live streams is meant to show you to show that that kind of a real working environment where focus and patience guide each step. There's nothing rushed here, just a continuous careful process unfolding in real time. You're welcome to stay, observe, or let this life play softly in the background as a calm and steady presence while you go about your day. I'm a fabric crafter, so I work with many types of fabric. In fabric flower crafting, using a soldering tool like this is especially helpful. Is very very helpful because it allows both shaping and finishing at the same time. When making petals or layer fabric elements, a heat helps define the curves while sealing the edges, which keeps each piece lightweight and clean without adding extra bulk. Many crafters prefer this method for flower made from satin or organza because the fabric naturally responds to heat by holding soft shapes, especially along rounded edges. The key is to guide the solder slowly along the pattern, letting the heat melt just enough to seal the edges without flattening the fabric texture. For organza, the movement needs to be very very gentle since the material is thin and reacts quickly, while on the other hand, satin usually benefits from a slightly steadier and more controlled path. This process often looks simple, but it relies heavily on experience and repetition to understand how different fabrics behave under heat. That's why this kind of crafting session is quiet and focused, with the same motion repeated over and over to maintain consistent results. This live stream show the real pace of handmade flower preparation, where precision, patience, and natural awareness matter more than speed. You are welcome to keep watching or let this live play in the background as a calm and steady workspace atmosphere. As I keep working on these fabric pieces, especially for flower making, the process becomes very repetitive but also very familiar. When using a soldering tool for fabric flowers, the goal is not only to cut the shape but also to gently guide the fabric so it holds a soft and natural curve. For petals made from organza, the heat reacts very very quickly, so I move slowly and lightly, letting the tool touch the fabric just enough to seal the edges without shrinking it too much. Satin petals. Satin petals usually feel a bit heavier and smoother, which means they can handle a slightly steadier movement, but still need to be careful. Need to careful about the heat control, so to avoid dull marks. Many crafters rely on these techniques because it helps keeps the petals lightweight, clean, and easy to layer later on. Over time, the hands start to recognize how each fabric responds, so the movement becomes more intuitive and less forced. That is why this type of work often looks quiet and calm with the same motion repeated again and again. During this live stream, I'm focusing on maintaining that steady rhythm because consistency is what keeps every petal looking similar in the shape and size. There's no rush in this stage since rushing usually creates uneven edges that are hard to fix. Not only hard, but sometimes it's impossible to fix later. This is this is simply the real pace of handmade flower crafting, where patience, repetition, and attention to matter more than speed or multitasking. Please feel free to stay and watch the process or let this live play softly in the background as a calm, steady working atmosphere. Okay, as this session continues, the focus stays on keeping the workflow smooth and comfortable, especially when making multiple fabrics flower in one sitting. When working in batches like this, consistency becomes more important than perfection because each petal needs to match the others closely enough to look harmonious when layered together. With fabric soldering, small habits make a big difference, such as keeping the same hand position, moving at a similar speed for every pieces, and allowing the heat to do most of the work instead of a pressing down. For organza petals, lighter contact helps keep the edges soft and airy, while satin petals usually need a slightly slower pass to maintain clean lines and a smooth finish. Over time, the fabric almost gathers the movements, and the hands learn when to slow down or move forward naturally. This stage of crafting is quiet and repetitive, but it's also where the overall quality is built. During this life, I'm intentionally working at a calm pace to avoid fatigue and mistakes. Since heat tools require steady attention over long periods, this is not a fast process, and it's not meant to be entertaining, maybe in a loud way. It's a simply a real time look at how handmade fabric, flowers, petals are prepared with care and patience. Please welcome to stay and watch or let this live play gently in the background as a relaxed, steady presence while you go about your day. Okay, as this work goes on, this stage is mostly about staying comfortable and maintaining the same calm pace over time. A fabric flower crafting with a soldering tools is very repetitive by nature, and that repetition is actually what helps train the hands to move more naturally. When shaping petals, especially rounded or curved edges, the heat allows the fabric is soften slightly and follow the movement of the tools, which makes the final shape look more organic. Organza petal usually needs extra care because the fabric is thin and reacts quickly, so slow and gentle movement helps prevent shrinking or uneven edges. On the other hand, satin petals feel a bit more stable, but they still requires control heat to keep the surface smooth and avoid marks. Many crafters prefer working this way because it keeps the petals light flexible and easy to layer leather without extra trimming. Over longer sessions, small pauses between coats helps maintain focus and prevent the tool from overheating in one area. This live stream shows the real rhythm of handmade work where progress comes from repeating the same careful steps rather than rushing to finish. There's no pressure to move faster here, just a steady flow that allows the materials and the hands to work together. If you're watching quietly or letting this live play in the background, that's exactly how it's meant to be used as a calm, focused workspace atmosphere that reflects the true pace of fabric flower crafting. As this life continues, the work stays focused on maintaining a steady and comfortable flow, which is especially important during long crafting session. Fabric flower making with the soldering tools is a process that depends more on the rhythm and consistency than on speed, and over time the hands naturally learn how much pressure and heat are needed for each fabric. When shaping petals, the solder helps seal the edges while allowing the fabric to hold soft curves, which is why this technique is commonly used for satin and organza flowers. Organza is very light and delicate, so slow and gentle movement help keeps the edges clean without shrinking the shape too much. While satin usually needs a slightly more even pass to keep the surface smooth and design intact. Working in the batches like this helps keep each petal similar in size and shape, which makes layering easier later on. During longer session, keeping the thumb posture, pace, and hand position help reduce fatigue and keeps the result and keeps the results consistency. This is why the process may look quiet and repetitive with long movement, of silence at the same time. The repetition is intentional and is part of how handmade work stay controlled and reliable. This live stream is not meant to rush or entertain in a loud way, but to show the real piece of cutting, fabric crafting as it happens, where patience, focus, and attention to materials matter most. You're welcome to stay and watch, relax with the sound of the tools, or simply let this live run in the background as a calm and steady presence while you go about your day. So now I want to talk about the fabric I usually use to make flower. The commonly fabric that I use is organza. You know, organza is one of the most commonly used fabric in fabric crafting, especially for flowers and decorative elements because of its light, sheer, and structured texture. Even though it looks soft and airy, organza has enough stiffness to hold shape, which is which make it ideal for petals, layers, and volume-based designs. When cutting organza, especially with a hot fabric soldering tool, the key is understanding how quickly it reacts to heat because the fabric is thin and it's a synthetic fabric. It melts and seals very fast, so slow and gentle movement is essential to keep the edges clean without shrinking or distorting the shape. Using a solder allows the edge to be sealed instantly, which prevents fraying and keeps the fabric lightweight without adding extra bulk from stitching or glue. This is one of the main reasons organza is preferred by crafters who want clean and delicate results. In the terms of texture, organza feels crisp but still flexible, which helps it create soft volume without collapsing. This balance between stiffness and transparency is what makes it so popular for flower crafting, both accessories and layer decoration. When shaped with heat, organza naturally forms gentle curves, especially along rounded edges, which is why many crafters use soldering tools not only for cutting but also for subtle shaping. Compared to heavier fabrics, organza requires less pressure and more patience since forcing the tools can easily damage the fabric or create uneven edges. Around the world, organza is widely used by fabric flower crafters, bridal accessory makers, costume designers, and handmade decor artists. In many crafting communities, especially those working with hair accessories, wedding decor, and gift embellishments, organza is valued for its elegant looks and lightweight feel. It adds volume without heaviness, making it comfortable for wearable items like headbands, brooches, or hair clips. Because organza comes in a wide range of colors and finishes, from matte to slightly glossy, it allows crafters to create soft, layered designs that catch light beautifully without overpowering the overall pieces. When working with organza in longer crafting sessions, consistency becomes more important. Since the fabric responds quickly to heat, maintaining the same speed, angle, and hand position helps keep each piece uniform. Many experienced crafters develop a steady rhythm when cutting organza, allowing the heat to glide along the edges instead of stopping in one spot. These techniques helps preserve the fabric's airy texture while ensuring durability. The process may look repetitive and tight, but it's built on self-control and materials awareness. Organza's versatile is one of its biggest strengths. It can be layered for fullness, shaped for dimension, or used as a soft accent alongside fabrics like satin or velvet. That's why it remains a staple material in fabric crafting worldwide. This live stream reflects how organza is handled in real working conditions where patience, repetition, and calm pace lead to clean and consistent results. Whether watched closely or played quietly in the background, this process shows the true nature of working with organza. Delicate, controlled, and intentionally slow. When working with organza at an advanced level, the most important skill is controlling heat rather than relying on pressure or speed. Organza is extremely sensitive to temperature, and even a small changes in how long the solder touches the fabric can definitely affect the final shape. Instead of pressing down, the experienced crafters let the heat glide lightly along the edge, allowing the fabric to melt and seal naturally. This technique keeps the edges soft instead of stiff, which is especially important for petals that need to look airy and dimensional. One common mistake with organza is staying too long in one spot, which can cause shrinking, uneven curves, or hardened edges that lose their light feel. To avoid this, many advanced crafters use continuous flowing movements and avoid stopping the tool while cutting. Shaping organza with heat goes beyond cutting. Subtle curves can be created by slightly lifting the fabric while guiding the solder, allowing gravity and heat to work together. This is often used when creating flowers petals that needs natural depth without added layers. Because organza is sheer, any uneven heat application becomes visible immediately. So consistency in angle and speed is really important, if not critical. Advanced crafters often develop muscle memory for this, adjusting their movement instinctively depending on the curve of the pattern. I've experienced this. And then in layer flower design, organza is usually placed on top of heavy fabrics like satin to add softness and light diffusion. To make this work, organza petals need clean edges and balanced curves so they don't overpower the structures underneath. This is why precise cutting and sealing are essentials. If the edges are too stiff, the layers won't move naturally. If they are under sealed, fraying can appear over time. So finding that balance comes from experience and repetition after repetition. Workflow also matters at an advanced level. Many professional crafters cut organza in small batches rather than all at once. I don't know if for you, but I also cut organza in small batches. Short pauses helps prevents overheating and keep results consistent. Working in a calm, controlled environment is especially important because Rushing often leads to mistakes that are difficult to correct with such a delicate fabric. Organza remains my favorite material among advanced fabric flower makers worldwide because it rewards patience and precision. When handled correctly, it creates volume, softness, and elegance without weight. In this live stream reflects that advanced approach, slow, controlled, and intentional, showing how organza is shaped through experience rather than force. Whether you are watching closely or letting this play quietly in the background, this process represents the refined side of organza crafting, where techniques, awareness, and calm repetition define the final results. And then the next fabric that I usually use in my craft project is satin. Satin is a fabric that many crafters around the world rely on because of its smooth surface, soft drapes, and elegant sheen. Unlike sheer fabrics such as organza, satin has a denser structure which gives it a more solid and luxurious feel while still remaining flexible enough for shaping. When cutting satin, especially with a hot fabric soldering tool, the approach needs to be steady and controlled. Satin doesn't react as quickly to heat as lighter fabrics, but it still requires careful temperature control to avoid the spots, stiffness, or discoloration along the edges. So using a soldering helps seal the edges instantly and preventing fraying and eliminating the need for additional finishing, which is especially useful when making clean shape like petals, bows, or decorative elements. In the term of texture, satin is known for its contrast between the smooth shiny front surface and the slightly matte back. This dual texture allows crafters to play with light and depth in their design, especially when layering petals or folding fabric into dimensional shape. When shaped with heat, satin tends to hold gentle curves well, making it ideal for flower crafting where structure and softness need to coexist. Compared to organza, satin usually requires a slightly slower and more even pass with the solder and then allowing the heat to glide smoothly along the edges without pressing down. This technique helps maintain the fabric shine while keeping the cut clean and consistent. Satin is widely used by fabric flower makers just like me, accessory designers, bridal crafters, and a handmade decor artist across many countries. In hair accessories, satin is popular because it feels more comfortable against the skin and looks refined without being over stiff. In floral crafting, satin petals are often used as the main structure layer, providing weight and while like the fabric like organza are layered on the top for softness and volume. This combination is commonly seen in handmade flowers, corsages, headbands, and decorative pieces where balance between elegance and durability is important. When working with satin during long crafting session, consistency is the key because satin shows marks and imperfection more easily than sheer fabrics. Maintaining the same cutting speed, then hand position and angle helps keep every piece uniform. Small pauses between cuts allow the fabric to cool slightly and prevent heat buildup in one area. Over time, experienced crafters like me develop a natural rhythm when working with satin, letting the tool do the work rather than forcing the fabric. This process may look repetitive, boring, but calm, but it's where quality is built through attention and patience. Satin versatiles is one of the reasons it remains a staple fabrics in crafting worldwide. It can be shaped, layered, folded, and combined with other materials to create pieces that feels polished and timeless. This live stream reflects how satin is handled in real crafting environments, where slow movements, controlled heat, and careful repetition produce clean and elegant results. Whether you are watching closely or letting this play quietly in the background, this process shows the true nature of working with satin. Smooth, structured, and intentionally unhurried. When working with satin at an advanced level, the main challenge is preserving the fabric's smooth surface and natural shine while cutting and shaping it with heat. Satin is more forgiving than organza in the term of thickness, but it also shows mistake more clearly, especially heat marks, dull edges, or stiffness caused by staying too long in one area. Experienced crafters focus on even heat distribution rather than speed, allowing the solder to glide smoothly along the edges instead of pressing down. The goal is to seal the edge cleanly while keeping the surface soft and flexible. So one common advanced mistake is overheating, which can flatten the texture or leave visible marks that are difficult to hide later, especially on lighter satin color. So to avoid this, professionals keep a steady pace and often lift the tool slightly at the end of each cut to prevent heat buildup at corners or curves. Shaping satin with heat also requires a different mindset compared to sheer fabrics like organza. Satin responds best to gentle guidance and controlled movement, allowing curves to form gradually instead of forcing the shape all at once. This is especially important for flowers petals, where satin often serves as the structural base layer. When shaped correctly, satin petals hold their form while still looking soft and natural. Advanced crafters pays close attention to the direction of movements because satin surface reflects light differently depending on how it's cut and curved. Keeping the same cutting direction across pieces help maintain visual consistency when petals are layered together. In layer flower design, satin is usually used as a foundation because of its weight and stability. Lighter fabric like organza or tulle are often placed on top and often placed on top to add softness and volume. For this combination to work well, satin petals must have very clean edges and smooth curves. Otherwise, imperfection become more noticeable once layers are assembled. That's why advanced satin work emphasizes precision and uniformity over speed. Small differences in the edge quality can affect the overall balance of the flower. Workflows plays a big role when working with satin professionally. Many experienced crafters prefer cutting satin in controlled batches, allowing the tool to maintain a consistent temperature and giving the fabric time to cool between cuts. This helps prevent stiffness and keep the edges flexible, maintaining alcon posture And steady hand position also reduces fatigue during long session, which is important when working with a fabric that highlights even minor inconsistencies. So satin remains a core material in advanced fabric flower crafting around the world because it combines elegance, durability, and versatility. When handled with care, it creates a strong yet refined base for many designs.
Ini kesini yang saya ya, wow, kok timbul ke pisik ya? Wah, kamu